So here's another example of definitional communism. Like they say, oh my God, Kamala Harris is a communist. Well, when you're telling on yourself, brothers and sisters, when you say that, that means A, I don't know what communism means, and B, I don't have any idea what's going on in American politics. Kamala Harris is a corporatist. That's her problem. Not that she's a communist. She's on the other end of the spectrum, right? The idea that Kamala Harris would come into office and say, that's it, there's no more private property. We're going to take all of your homes and it's now government property, all your cars, etc. She was not going to get within 1 billion miles of that. Her donors would never allow her to get within 1 billion miles of that. That is so preposterous that when you say something like that, it's disqualifying. Like, I can't debate someone who thinks that Democrats are communists when they're actually largely corporatists. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. So let's.
So here we are on the Lex Fridman podcast, and I've said in other videos that I don't get the popularity of Lex Fridman, frankly. Maybe he'll surprise me in this clip. I haven't actually watched this clip. Normally I watch the clips ahead of time. So I'm freewheeling here. Got a glass of wine. It's the end of the week when I'm recording this. So I'm having a glass of wine. And we'll see. But what Cenk Uygur, I mean, as you can see, Lex Fridman is interviewing Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks. And so far I agree with what Cenk is saying. Recently, Cenk has been, he's been changing. He seems to be following in Anna Kasparian's footsteps, kind of leaving the left. And he's absolutely right. Of course, it's ridiculous to call like any American politician at national level a communist. They're completely owned by the corporations, by special interests, by their donors, by whoever, we all know. So calling them communists is ridiculous. I agree with that. Let's see what Lex has to say from that. As we know, as you may or may not know, Lex Fridman was born in the Soviet Union. So he might have something to say about communism.
Let's go there. So when people call her a communist, they're usually referring to certain kinds of policies. So do you think? I think it's a ridiculous label to assign to Kamala Harris, especially given the history of communism in the 20th century and what those economic and political policies have led to, the scale of suffering that led to. And it just degrades the meaning of the word, right? But to take that seriously, why is she not a communist? So you said she's not a communist because she's a corporatist. Okay. But that can't be... Okay, everybody in politics is a corporate. Almost everybody in politics is a corporate. But that doesn't mean...
Pretty much everybody at the national level is owned by somebody. There seems to be in America. Now, in my European country where I live, similar things happen, but it's different. But in America, for sure, virtually every politician in Congress is owned by somebody. I think there's a few exceptions, maybe Thomas Massey, for example, but let me know if I'm wrong. I don't really follow this closely. But if you get to that level, you're owned.
The corporations have completely bought their mind. They have an influence on their mind on issues that matter to those corporations.
Yep.
Right? Outside of that, they're still thinking for the voters because they still have to win the votes.
Barely.
Okay.
So here, let me give you an example so you see what I'm saying.
I like where Cenk is going with this.
So if you just wanted votes, you would do a lot of what Tim Walz did, okay? And by the way, a lot of what Bernie did, that's why Bernie, who had no media coverage, went from like 2% in 2015 to by the end about 48%, because he was just doing things that were popular, right? And that American people wanted, et cetera, right? Because he's not controlled by corporations. By the way, neither is Tom Massey on the right-wing side, on the Republican side, right? So it's not all, that's why I always say almost all, right? So if you're doing things that are popular, people love it. So today, what would Kamala Harris do if she actually just wanted to win, right? So number one, she would try to pass paid family leave right now. Why? It polls at 84%, and even 74% of Republicans want it. Why? Because it says, hey, when you have a baby, you should get 12 weeks off. Bond with your baby. Right now, in a lot of states that don't have paid family leave, You have to go back to work the very next day, or you have to use all of your sick days, all your vacation days, just to have 1 or 2 weeks with your baby.
Or maybe, just maybe, we should have a society where it's not necessary for the mother to work. You know, America used to be like that not all that long ago. And therefore, it would not be necessary for the mother to take paid family leave, or to talk about this, you know, paternal leave or parental leave. You know, maybe we should go back to something more traditional instead of adding on things, you know, just adding more crud on top of the system, the systemic crud that we already have. Maybe the system worked pretty well when the mothers were raising their babies, and the father could work even a working class job. You know, he could be working at a plant somewhere and could afford to have a modest home, but his wife at home raising their children.
Right? So conservatives love paid family leave. Liberals love paid family leave. That's why it polls so high. So why isn't she proposing it? It's not in our economic plan. Tim Walz already passed it in Minnesota. He showed how easy it was. If you want votes, and then you know what's going to happen if you propose paid family leave. The Republicans are going to go, no, our beloved corporations don't want to spend another dollar on moms, right? And they fall for that trap, and then you're in infinitely better shape. So why doesn't she do it? She doesn't do it because her corporate donors don't want her to do it. $15 minimum wage, layup. Over 2/3 of the country wants it because it not only gives higher wages for minimum wage folks, but it pushes wages up for others. And what do the elites say? Oh, that's going to drive up inflation. Oh, you shouldn't get paid anymore. Wait, hold on. So you're saying all the other prices should go up, but the only thing that shouldn't go up is our wages? No, our wages should go up, okay? So these are all easy ones. Here's another one, anti-corruption. Why isn't she running on getting money out of politics? It polls at over 90%. Why isn't Trump running on it anymore? He won when he ran on it in 2016. He didn't mean a word of it, but he ran on it. It was smart. They don't do it because their corporate donors take their heads off if they do it.
So in contradiction to that, why did she propose to raise the corporate tax rate from whatever, 21% to 28%?
Because that's easy, because that is something that's super popular, and she's not going to do it. That's why. So guys, this is where I break the hearts of Blue MAGA. Blue MAGA thinks, oh my God, these Democrats, they're angels, and the right wingers and the Republicans are evil, and they work for big business, but not Kamala Harris, not Joe Biden, right? Okay, well, Donald Trump took the corporate tax rate from 35% to 21%. So that's trillions of dollars that got transferred. Because guys, you got to understand, if the corporations don't pay it, we have to pay it. Because
we only have to pay it if there's something that needs to be paid for. So if you decrease government spending across the board, which is what the new Doge department is supposed to do, Department of Governmental Efficiency or whatever it's called. If you don't have all this insane bureaucracy and these insane programs, then you don't need it in the first place. Now, 38% or whatever it was, you said, 38% corporate tax, that's insane. 21% sounds fairly reasonable. But certainly, I mean, even in the European country where I live, the corporate tax is, I should know this, is roughly 30%, something like that. And this is in Europe, you know, socialist Europe, as the Americans call it. But my point is that just everything, all the fat, we just need to step back and say, what are we paying for? Why do we need all these taxes? We just shouldn't even need all of them. Remember, the income tax was first introduced in like the early 20th century, like the early 1900s. The income tax, and the first income tax was something like 1%, and people were not happy with that.
We're running up these giant deficits, and eventually either they're going to Not eventually. They keep raising our taxes in different ways that you're not noticing. They keep increasing fees and fines and different ways for the government to collect money. So we're paying for it. And on top of that, eventually they're going to cut your Social Security and Medicare because they're going to say, oh, we don't have any options left anymore. Yeah, you don't have any options left anymore because you kept giving trillions of dollars in tax cuts to corporations. So we're going to have to pay for that. So then Biden says, oh my God, I'm going to bring corporate taxes back up to 28%. I'm like, wait, hold on. They were at 35. You already did a sleight of hand and said 28. Okay, then he gets into office, and Manchin says, no, 25. That's the highest I'll go. And he goes, okay, fine, 25. And then while you're not looking, they just dump it. They don't even do 25. It's still at 21. So hear me now, quote me later. I do predictions on the show all the time because you should hold me accountable. You should hold all your pundits accountable. Yeah. If you held all your pundits accountable, we'd be the last man standing, and that's kind of what happened. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I guarantee you she will not increase corporate taxes.
So would the same be the case for price controls or the anti-price gouging that she's proposing?
So it's not price controls, it's anti-price gouging?
It is price controls, but I mean minimum wages price controls also.
Now we're going to get into a lot of minutia, but I'll try to keep it broad. So price controls are a disaster. They never work. If you say, oh, here's a banana, it has to stay at $1 a pound, make up a number, right? Well, supply and demand is going to move, and then that's going to, and so the minute it moves to $2 where the price should be, then you're going to run into shortages. So we all know this. It's a bad idea, right? But are there laws against price gouging? There already are, and they're a good idea. So why? Like you have a natural disaster, all of a sudden the water that was $1, now they're charging $100. The government has to come in, democratic capitalism. They come in and go, no, I'm going to protect the people. So you're not allowed to price gouge. You know, maybe charge $2, et cetera, but you're not going to charge $100. But it is temporary. We get that done. We end the problem there, and then we bring it back to a normal supply and demand. Okay, so that's what she's proposing. That's all political because the price gouging has already passed. They did it in 21 and 22, and so now the grocery stores are actually a low margin business. She says grocery stores. That's how I know she doesn't mean it because the grocery stores weren't the problem. Consumer goods were the problem. Yeah, those companies.
She's following the polls where most people will say that the groceries are too expensive. So she's just basically saying the most popular thing. Yeah.
100%, and you could tell in which proposals she means it and which proposals she doesn't because of the framing, right? So this is a mediocre example, but in housing, she said we have to stop private equity from buying houses in bulk. I'm like, curious that they put the word in bulk there. Why does it have to be in bulk? Why don't we just stop them from buying any residential home? Like you could set up normal boundaries, right? For example, Charlie Kirk was on the Young Turks this week.
By the way, sorry to take that tangent. I really enjoyed that conversation. I really enjoyed that you talked to. That was like civil. You guys disagreed pretty intensely, but like there was a lot of respect. I really enjoyed that.
Thank you, brother.
That was beautiful. Yeah, you and Charlie Kirk, and I think Anna was there.
Yeah, that's right.
I didn't see that clip. I'll have to check it out. But yeah, I think we'll leave it there. But Cenk is making sense, I think. The purpose of government is to help the people. And the federal government, I think, yeah, it helps some people, but it just soaks up so many resources. It has become an entity unto itself, and it's metastasized so much that it is just a huge sink of all our tax dollars just disappear into it. Now, the same thing happens in Europe, of course. In the country where I live, believe me, I get taxed at a very high rate. And I have a business here which gets taxed at a pretty high rate. But, generally speaking, we do see something, well, traditionally we saw something in return for those taxes, although that is changing for various reasons, including mass migration. But in America, the tax revenues the tax receipts are so high, and all they're doing is funding this massive government complex, this bureaucratic complex, and of course the defense industry, which is insane. Now, again, I'm all for a strong defense, but I'm not for the American empire just, invading all sorts of countries. So there's a lot to unpack here. We won't get into it now. Let me know what you think in the comments. And in the meantime, please like and subscribe. It really helps me grow the channel and continue making content for you.